Welcome to the Get Good at Presenting podcast with Lee Jackson.
Today, I thought I would interview someone who I just randomly met online when I saw something absolutely amazing. So we are going to chat to Hidde Douna, who is from the, where are you from, Hidde? Explain.
I'm not far from you, Lee. It's just an hour away. I'm from the Netherlands. I'm close to Amsterdam.
It's a beautiful place, Now, sometimes you see something online and you think, that's interesting. So I remember liking a few of your posts. I remember commenting on a few of them and thinking, this is really different. So I thought I'd get in touch, and we did. And here we are to interview, because me as a professional speaker, I'm always looking for visuals, things that would help me to help an audience understand something. That's why I design the slides that I do. That's why I designed, that's why I've written a couple of books on slides to help people to simplify what they do and to help them to do it. Because I think as a presenter, as a speaker, our job is literally, and I've got a prop for this, Hidde, you'll be glad to know, our job is literally to sieve the information that we have and allow just what the audience needs. Because you can be an absolute expert on something, just like a TED Talk, you become an expert on something, the real TED Talks that we see. But then actually you have to put the information in there. And part of my job as a speaker and presenter is to sieve what the audience gets and to simplify. So our job really is to simplify complicated content, whether it's a sales pitch, whether it's an internal presentation, or whether it's just, like I did this weekend, speaking to people, colleagues, other professional speakers. I had to simplify a complicated thing this weekend, and that's what I tried to do. And so I saw growth by visuals, and that was, I think it was on Threads where I saw you, Hidde, originally. And I saw this and I thought, these are absolutely brilliant. So Hidde, why don't you explain what you do and sort of how you got there, and let's share a couple of the images, which I think are fantastic.
No, definitely. Thank you for having me here, Lee. And I think you almost gave my entire pitch already, because everywhere in my bio, it also says, what I basically do is simplify complexity and try to make sure that any complex topics turn into aha moments through visuals. And I think the origin story is a lot for coming from presentations. So I work in a corporate environment, and previously I worked as a PhD in academia, where you do a lot of presentations, and definitely also during my PhD, it's complex topics that you want. Basically, you have a message that you want to get across, and as you have well represented with the SIF, you need to make it simple, right? Exactly, and that's a visual in itself. I'm already thinking of something, but from that, let's say, challenge of making complex things understandable for a broad audience, I started almost 2 years ago with creating visuals, very simple visuals, but the simplicity probably is what makes it work. Because I started somewhere August 2025, and 2024, sorry. And I'm close to, let's say, 300,000 followers across the social media channel. So it's been an amazing journey. And so since through that, we've also met. And I think there are a lot of touch points. And as you asked, I can share a few of them just so that the audience has some idea what we're talking about. I hope that you can see it now, Lee.
Yes, absolutely. Yep.
And so I think this is, to be honest, this is my most viral visual. And the funny thing here is that it's basically just 2 circles, right? And that in itself already explains that making things simple as possible is probably the most effective way of getting your message across. And so the lines, the text, just make it exist first, and you can make it good later. I basically saw it somewhere, someone wrote it somewhere. And so it's not even mine, to be honest. But I made these 2 circles, an imperfect circle and a perfect circle. because many of us, including me, struggle with perfectionism. And I created this just to feel that, it's okay to start with a first ugly draft. You can always make it good later. And yeah, that's basically the origin story behind this visual. And I'm still surprised how viral this has gone, given that it's just two simple drawings.
The way I see it is, I think it was Threads I found this, because Threads is a place for sharing. It seems like a kinder place, right? I think Threads and Instagram seem a little bit kinder than the other places, right? And I remember this kind of stopped me in my tracks, because I imagine some of your people that follow you, they are, they're going to be stuck in perfectionism. They're going to be stuck doing something. I mean, the irony is they are doom scrolling because they're procrastinating and have perfectionism. And then they come across your visual, which hits them between the eyes of like, oh, maybe I just need to start. So was there a moment when you realized that simplifying things was good? Was there a personal moment where you realized that I need to simplify complex things?
No, definitely, because I didn't start off just creating visuals, because it's a sort of a twofold story that I do it because I make presentations myself and I communicate a lot. And in that sense, you want visuals. But on the other hand, I also read a lot of nonfiction books. And I used to be very enthusiastic about a nonfiction book for weeks, but then slowly, all the insights faded. And, months later, I couldn't even really remember what the book was about. So I was also looking for ways to make insights stick for me personally. And first off, I started with making a lot of book notes. And I created, elaborate systems on creating very comprehensive book notes and book summaries. But in the end, I was more building that system and adding to complexity, and it didn't work. And then, I gave up on that. And basically, I thought, okay, so what else is there that helps in making insights stick? And so I started off with the book notes because, actively writing stuff helps you remember things, but visual things help you even remember things better. So then I combined the two things of making slides and designs and this part, and on that, in that sort of edge came this visual work. Once I started doing that, it worked.
I'm not a massive reader. I do read, but I also listen as well. But one of the reasons I don't read a lot is that when I read, I write notes in the book. I have my phone nearby and I'm taking notes as I read. So I guess it's that extension of that, isn't it? Of sometimes we can go to a 3-day conference and come away with two things. We've sat through 15 hours of talks and we go away meeting a couple of good people and maybe two things we want to implement in our businesses or in our personal life. So I suppose you're cutting to the chase with that, aren't you? Of there's 50,000 words in a book, but actually my takeaway is these two diagrams.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. And I also recognize what you say about symposia and congresses and multi-day events. I've had a lot of those, and again, I have had sort of the similar experience as in reading books. I come away super enthusiastic about new insights and new things, and then your normal day happens again. Your inbox, your commute, etc., and all of those things sort of start to fade on the background because you also don't really have something that holds those insights. And sometimes I look back in my notes and I think, oh wow, yeah, I was so enthusiastic about that, but I completely forgot. And I think this visual is something that you can just hold up, somehow hold on to, and have you relive the moment a bit more.
So you have a little bit of a background in marketing, I think, don't you? And were these just for fun? Were you always thinking this is a business, this is going to be something that I sell, or was it actually you were thinking, do you know what, this is just for me, you know?
Yeah, it started off just for me, and then I was reading a book about just sharing your work. It's from Austin Kleon. It's about sharing your work and showing your work to the world. And I thought, why not? And I started off with just Instagram, and I posted, and then I said, okay, let's take this seriously, because I do have that habit of being enthusiastic and then stopping things. So I gave myself, let's say, the framework of 100 days, which I also read in another book. And I said, okay, these 100 days, I'll post at least every day one visual. And then, only then, I will see if I want to continue or stop. But then after that 100 days, it was already such a positive experience for me that I kept going. But there was never really from the onset a business idea behind it. There's much more now, but at the beginning, that was not really the purpose of it.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So it's almost like a hobby or something that helps you, then you want to share it with the world. Do you want to share a couple more of your favorite images? That would be great, Hidde.
I do mix up a few things, but very often it's just super simple forms. So the visuals are probably not, I mean, everybody can draw this. So it's much more about what we just talked about the thinking behind it and distilling it down until, the first principles of the idea. And so here, this is what is very often used in presentations that I see as well, is that, we have this general idea of successful people being, extremely talented in many, many things. But very often, the one differentiating thing is that they have a very positive mindset. And maybe they're not that much talented, but they just believe in themselves a lot more.
They share their work rather than hiding their work or whatever that happens to be. Yeah. So it's good. So as someone who's interested in design, let's go into the design a little bit. You're using, I think, all of your images, all of your designs are on a white background, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, true.
So you've kept it always white. And I think, have you kept the same font throughout as well?
Yes, everywhere. And to be honest, this is really also, I've basically done this because I haven't really thought a lot about what background do I want, what font do I want, what brand colors do I want. I only thought, okay, I'll start and I'll stay consistent. So I just picked a hand kind of written font because it fits the drawing style. White because I just like the minimalistic feeling of it, and then I just picked a few let's say primary colors, with teal and purple the most prominent ones. But again, I didn't really give it that much thought, and I just went with it. But I keep the consistency, so people will very often recognize now already, without maybe even my name under it. They will recognize, hey, this is a growth by visuals image.
And you've put growth by visuals in a sort of gray, so it's there. But what I noticed is, unlike lots of memes and stuff that people put on social media, there's not 5 things there saying, you're not listing your Instagram, your threads, your website, your everything else. You're keeping that minimal as possible.
Yeah, and it has pros and cons. I do that because I actually don't even want it on there. But I mean, it should be on there because people need to recognize and trace it back. The con is that I do it minimal, but many people, they cut it off, to be honest, and then share it. Yeah. So
you can take that one of both ways. You can take that as a compliment, or you can get angry about it, right? It's like, it's a choice that we have, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. And I know that the best way is to take it as a compliment, but it can be frustrating at times when you see people, just cropping it off and sharing it as their own. But that's, in the end, I'm happy to have it here minimally, because the idea is that, it's the visual. People need to look at the visual and not necessarily at the brand name.
It's terrible that people would count it as their own, because you need obviously to be, if it's yours, you need to be name checked and everything else. It is terrible. I'm not putting that by. That is terrible that people are doing that. But it's interesting, there is that mindset. I mean, quite recently, I got some photographs to use on a presentation, some really great photographs of my city. Really nice fella called Alvin Martin, who gave me permission to use his photographs. And on the photographs, I keep my slides very minimal, but I just put his name at the bottom because it was right. And he's absolutely delighted. What was really interesting was I've asked a few photographers if I can use their photographs in my slides, and they quite often say no. Because people sometimes create something and then they hold on to it.
Right.
It's very interesting that you've created something, and yes, it's got your details on there. You need, people need to buy the set, and you can explain about your new library and everything in a moment. But actually, I think it's nice the way you have just kind of put them out there, because you could have put a watermark on there or something, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and that remains, as I say, is sort of it's a bit of a paradox, because I think part of the success is that I don't do that, because it's the pattern interrupt of the visual, and that will probably be diminished if I put a big watermark over it. On the other hand, if I did put a more watermark over it, people would probably buy the visuals more than just screenshot them. So I'm somewhere in between, but I'm happy where I am. So yeah.
Yeah, that's fine. That's good. So let me look at the design again, like from someone who designs slides. So you initially, were you doing stuff sort of in PowerPoint or Keynote, and then you moved to making a visual? Were you making stuff inside of PowerPoint originally? Is that how it started, or?
Not necessarily for this, but I did. I mean, I presented a lot of presentations where I would try to use shapes in PowerPoint and explain a concept. So from there, it was easy for me to get into a little more design programs. So now I use Figma. It's basically it's a design program for web design, and it has tons of features. Sorry, and I probably use 1% of it, because I just use the pen tool and the shape tool more or less. Because you'll see that if we go through a few more of them. Yeah, so here again, you will recognize it's similar colors. It's the same font. It's very simple shapes, but it's something people will recognize probably. So, even when people are growing, they keep raising the bar, which I also recognize by myself. So you might not even notice how far you've come, right? Because you keep raising the bar. And I think that's also a very well-known feeling or insight for, let's say, people that overachieve sometimes.
Yeah, sure. And as my design head, I'm looking at that now thinking that's actually quite complicated, because you have to decide on the distances between the top and the bottom, the spaces in between, the heights. It looks extremely simple, but there's 4 shades of color there. There's some extra stuff. Yeah, it's interesting how you've done it. It's interesting.
Yeah, and that's often the case. The simpler a visual is, the more time I put in it, because the way my mind works is that I have something in my mind, and I just make it exist first, right? So that's the first image again. I put everything from my mind on the screen. And from that point, I basically start deleting mostly. I try to feel like, if I delete this, does the image still hold, right? And if I delete this, does the core message still land? Or am I really, removing a core pillar here? Or can I delete? And then also color, right? I could make this blue and then yellow and purple. And so the color use is also very deliberate. It's not just there for show, it's deliberate.
Yeah. So the darker color is the stronger one, is the higher one, and the lighter color is the weaker one. So you can see that's a beautiful design kind of thing that you've done there as well, you know.
Yeah, so and you now we're talking about it and thinking about it, but I think even without probably in 1 or 2 seconds, you would at least feel that. Maybe you wouldn't be able to explain it, but you would feel that this is a less pronounced bar than this one. And I think those kind of small design tweaks really help in intuitively getting a message.
That's fantastic. So let's just think of me as a presenter now. So one of the things that I always say is you simplify to amplify. So, so you simplify a message to amplify the message. The worst presentations in the world, and you say you have an academic background. So I think the worst presentations in the world are maybe legal presentations, followed very closely by a lot of academic presentations, because someone is a real expert in one tiny subject and they tell you everything they know. But you've managed to stay in that. You've been in the academic world with a little bit of a marketing and corporate background. So you've managed to somehow simplify the complicated. So, have you deliberately used these in your presentations where before maybe you didn't do that? Were you a bit overcomplicated back in the days,
No, definitely. I think I've always tried to simplify things because I always understood. Probably I couldn't probably say it as well as you do, simplify to amplify, but I understood the concept that, less is probably more. So I tried back in my academia days, definitely to simplify, but I never drew these visuals. And I think that came a lot later when I worked in corporate and also got my more affinity with marketing and marketing experience. And a lot more design work in PowerPoint, making a lot of big decks, slide decks. But again, I think the analytical work that I do in academia helps me understand the bigger concepts, and now the marketing part helps me breaking it down into, okay, what do we really need to say, and how do we need to say it?
Yeah. So was your academic studies related to any of the stuff that you're looking at?
No, not at all. It was about cardiovascular disease and immunology.
Nothing to do with design or marketing. It's about cardiovascular disease. That's funny.
Exactly. Yeah.
There you go. Who'd have thought it? Yeah. So you talk about, we were talking earlier that you're starting to, obviously you have, I think, a couple of hundred of these now. Is that right? But you're building more of a library that people can buy from you. Do you want to explain a bit about the library?
Let's go back to stop sharing my screen. So I'm still figuring things out. So it's a hobby that has gone into a big has grown into a big following, and now I see that many people are interested in using them. And so indeed, I started off with making a few of them every week, and now I have probably close to 200 of them. And I'm really trying to open it up, but also in a way that I make some money from it. So a win-win situation. And I now have, and it's close to finished, sort of a website where I can show my entire library, and you browse through it. And then it's probably too heavy to show, but you browse through it and you click and you say, I like this, I want to keep this one. And then you add it to your cart, and then at the end you go to checkout and you buy them, and you can buy, let's say, the commercial rights to use them in your presentations. You can buy the edit rights because sometimes you just want to edit a few words. Sometimes you want your brand colors on it. And I've done it so I already have a web shop where you can buy a few of them. I think there are 15 or 20 online. But it took too much time to individually upload each one of them. And now I'm just trying to make the complete library sort of available.
So you're becoming the Amazon of
of visuals,
of growth by visuals, right? Yeah. I get you. Yeah, that makes sense, because I suppose some people might just see one and they just think, I just need that for this talk I'm doing next week. That would be great. where some people, maybe educators and people like that, might want to buy a whole package of them. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's also more the marketing part of me that tries to understand who is actually following me and who's interested in using it. And so I see sort of three different categories. So it's people just want for personal inspiration. Then the second group is users, but under those users there are a lot of different people. So there are teachers and educators. And then there are coaches and therapists, and then there are a lot of professional and thought leaders that give a lot of presentations. And then the third category is people that want to learn how to make these visuals.
Ah, right. Okay. So you'll end up doing an online school of some sort, right?
Yeah.
As I'd watched yours for a few months and stuff and had a look at various things, they just kept popping up. The algorithm worked for once, right? The algorithm was useful, right? Because the algorithms are so bad these days, you see something amazing and you never see it again.
Oh, that's true.
We all have to work on our algorithms, personal algorithms, the people we meet, the people we hang out with, but also online stuff. So I make sure that I like things and save things so that they can, the algorithm gets to understand that. But I guess you get loads of that. But then there was a part of me that was just thinking, how many messages a day do you get from someone that says, make this into a visual, make this, here's my favorite book, make this into a visual? You must have had loads of those, right?
Yeah, definitely. But the funny thing is that I got more of those when I was at 10,000 followers.
Ah, okay.
Because probably people felt more like, okay, this is an account I can still, he isn't overwhelmed yet with messages. So there was a turnaround where I think people indeed think, just like you, he must be overwhelmed by messages. And then, it's a hurdle probably to message me. I still get a lot of messages, but I think the line goes like this, and I'm somewhere here now.
I see. Yeah. So it depends on it's kind of seasonal or algorithmic, I suppose, because you can suddenly go to the top of something and be very popular. It's someone else that's yeah. So you never know, do you? So
no. So and in general, indeed, I mean, there are slow. I think there are many slow weeks, and then one visual pops off, and then it's millions of views, and then it's weeks dry season, let's say.
So are you big on hashtags and other things to be found, or have you just left it fairly organic, really?
No, I never. No, maybe the first few posts I used hashtags, and then I read somewhere that it wasn't that useful anymore, and I hated it already. So I thought, okay, this is my cue to stop doing it. So it's not. I think really the success behind it is what you already alluded before is the pattern interrupt. So it's everybody scrolls, and I think these kind of visuals sort of make people at least pause 1 or 2 seconds, and that's already quite powerful in this attention heavy world. And then if they save and share, then you're set for good engagement, let's say.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So Hidde, tell everybody where they can find the visuals. Where can they find them? What's the best way to connect with you?
The best way is to just go to my website. It's www.growthbyvisuals.com. And any questions, any ideas, I'm really approachable. I think send me a message at hidde@growthbyvisuals.com or reach out to me on any of my social channels. I'm not that overwhelmed yet with messages, so I'll reply.
Still plenty more. That's great. That's fantastic. So I will put all the links, everybody, in the show notes, and I will put the links on YouTube and everything else, and make sure you can click those. As well, mention the software as well. If you can just send me that link, the software and stuff like that. Just because I think people are interested in the work that you do, but then obviously they're interested in how you do it and how they can obviously purchase and buy those and use those kind of things. So it's just great. It really got me thinking, Hidde, about the whole simplifying your presentations. And when I came across someone who literally was simplifying, it was just a great little moment. So thank you for for replying to my emails. Thank you for willing to spend some time with now. And is there anything you want to wrap up with today? Anything you want anyone else to know?
No, I think what we also talked about before. So first of all, thanks for having me, and I also really love that you want to share my story with your audience. And so anyone of your audience that is willing to buy anything from me, they can use Lee20 as a discount code to get 20% off of anything in my shop.
There you go. Exciting news. So use the discount code Lee20 to get 20% off. Thank you, Hidde. That is absolutely amazing. We will continue to follow your progress. And when you make that first £10 million, please come back and visit us, and we'll interview you again from your mansion in Dubai. Okay.
Perfect. Thanks, Lee.
Thanks for listening to my podcast. If you're interested in me speaking in your workplace, coaching you, or interested in books or courses or any of that good stuff, then you can find it all at leejackson.org. That's leejackson.org/links.